Oke, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We are from Group 9. Will be presentation our PowerPoint on business English course. Our material is business cycle. Let me introduce our group, that is member 1, Muhammad Eka Ardiansah with last NPM 089. Member 2, Muhammad Bintang Rizky Pratama with last NPM 099. And the last, member 3, Nadila Devi Azhar with last NPM 055. For the first, I will explain about the definition of the business cycle. The business cycle is the natural expansion and contraction of economic growth that occurs in a country of a period of time. The rise and fall of a country's gross domestic product, or GDP, determines the start and end of the business cycle, which is also known as the economic cycle or trade cycle. This cycle takes into account the growth and decline of economic activity over time. There are 5 stages in the business cycle, namely for the first, expansion, peak, contraction, tranche, and recovery. I will explain expansion. The cycle always begins with the expansion stage. During this stage, there are clear positive economic indicators, including growth in income, employment, demand, supply, and profit. Throughout expansion, investment frequency tends to increase, and both business and individual generally pay their debt on time. The next material will be read by Ardi. So Ardi, times is yours.
Okay, thank you for moderator. Okay, the next is peak. When the economy becomes saturated and upward growth can no longer continue, the business cycle enters a peak stage. Weeks, employment level and price of goods and services are as high as possible. At this point, this economic indicator stop improving further. Many business and individuals re-examine their budgets in anticipation of a decline in economic activity. Okay, next. Okay, the next contraction. At the end of the peak stage, the trend of economic growth begins to reverse as the economy contracts. The contraction phase has two distinct phases, namely recession and depression. A. Recession. The recession phase begins as soon as the expansion ends and economic activity begins to decline. That lasts until GDP returns to the point that marked the start of the expansion phase. During a recession, demand begins to decline immediately, but producers fail to adjust their output until the market has expanded subsequently. Positive economic indicators such as prices and wages are starting to fall at this point. B. Depression. The depression stage begins once GDP falls below the pre-expansion level or steady growth line. During the depression, the employment rate increased dramatically, while economic growth continued to decline. The depression lasts until economic activity could not fall any further. Okay, next. Okay, the next time. When the depression state reaches its lowest point, the business cycle enters the third stage. At this point, the country is experiencing negative economic growth as supply and demand fall as low as possible. Okay, next. Next, recovery. Once GDP reaches the lowest point in the cycle, the recovery phase begins. During this stage, the economy begins to recover and reverses the negative trend. Demand increases and supply soon fall. Eventually, investment resumed and employment and production began to increase. The recovery phase lasts until GDP returns to a steady growth line. After reaching this point, the current business cycle ends and a new one begins when it enters the expansion stage again. Okay, I will return back to moderator.
Okay, thank you, Ardi. Next, the last material will be read by Bintang. To Bintang, that's yours.
Okay, thanks, Nabila. How to measure a business cycle? First, business cycle time, and second, severity. Next. To measure the cycle time, companies and countries can set specific dates. For example, according to INDET, the National Bureau of Economic Research atau NBAR has set a date for each business cycle based on extensive economic research. The severity of the regulation state can be measured based on three metrics. First, what is the intensity level in the recreation stage? Second, division, how with the spread is the stage of recreation in the mature economy? And third, how long does the recreation last? Economists can also calculate three metrics to determine the severity of the expansion stage. One, pronounce how striking or significant is the expansion stage. Second, pervasive, how many aspects of the economy have been achieved in the expansion phase. Last, persistent, does the expansion stage last longer than usual? Next. Why is business cycle very important? First, predict the future direction of the economy so as to prepare a suitable strategy as well. Second, prepare when there are changes in interest rates, taxes, or fiscal balance due to the economic cycle. Third, detect early about the turning point of macroeconomic condition. Last, predict the risk of possible crisis on an economic scale. Okay, thank you, Nabila.
Okay, that's our presentation from us. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi
wabarakatuh.